Good morning, everyone. Hello and hi. Welcome to your first session of chemistry on studi.live. I'm Dr. Ashish, and we are going to discuss this topic today, as you can see on the screen, electrochemistry. Now, without any further delay, let's go to the concept. Basically, what do we understand by this term electrochemistry? So, talking about electrochemistry, what do we understand by this term? As you can see on the screen, this is two things, electro and chemistry. Now basically this is a branch of physical chemistry. It's a branch of physical chemistry. Now when we talk physical chemistry, what exactly do we mean by this term? When you identify a concept as a concept of physical chemistry, it's a branch of physical chemistry. So when you say physical chemistry, the changes or the effect would be visible. Okay, it will be visually identified. You can identify the changes that are taking place due to this chemical changes. Okay, and hence it's called as a branch of physical chemistry. One of the other important topics that comes under the branch of physical chemistry is thermodynamics. Today we are discussing about electrochemistry. Now, as the name suggests, electro, this is going to deal with electrons, and electrons are responsible for the flow of current, for the flow of charge. Okay, they are responsible, in simple words, for electricity. So what exactly are we discussing over here? Electrochemistry is a branch of physical chemistry which deals with interconversion. It deals with interconversion between chemical and electrical forms of energy. It deals with the interconversion between the chemical and the electrical forms of energy. So this is the basic meaning of this term electrochemistry, a branch of physical chemistry which deals with the interconversion between chemical and electrical forms of energy. Now, student, remember that whenever chemical changes into electrical, okay, so here we are talking about interconversion. So it can go like this, or it can come the other way around, like this. Either we can go from chemical into electrical, or from electrical into chemical. Now, where do these changes take place? Where do we notice these kinds of changes taking place? We notice these changes taking place in a device called as cell. Okay, so cell is the device where the interconversion between chemical and electrical forms of energy takes place. So the device where this interconversion takes place is called a cell. Okay? Is this clear to everyone? So far, are the things clear? So we talk about electrochemistry. Electrochemistry is that branch of chemistry which is related to physical chemistry, which deals with interconversion between chemical and electrical forms of energy. And this interconversion you will notice where? In the device called as cell. अब सेल के बहुत सारे टाइप्स होते हैं. What we will be discussing ahead are the different types of cell, how they function, okay, and what are the factors, the parameters which help us to identify that which will be the most efficient cell. Okay, now cell will do what? Cell will convert chemical energy into electrical energy, okay, or it will convert electrical energy into chemical energy. Okay, what we are going to see ahead. Now, I hope this is clear to everyone. Let us go further. Now, every cell has two components. Students, every cell, हर cell का दो components होता है. What makes up a cell? Okay, what are the parameters that are required in order to construct a cell? You need two things. You need an electrode, a set of electrodes, and you need the electrolyte. You need the electrolyte and you need electrodes. Okay, now many times it happens, you may come across a question in your papers or the MCQs, you know, what are electrodes? So majority students give the answer anode and cathode. The answer is wrong. Okay, I'm sure अभी भी बहुत सारे बच्चों को ये लग रहा होगा, अरे एनोड कैथोड रॉन्ग कैसे हो गया, इलेक्ट्रोड्स तो एनोड कैथोड ही गलत है. अगर क्वेश्चन होता टाइप्स ऑफ इलेक्ट्रोड और आप बोलते एनोड एंड कैथोड तो करेक्ट होता. इलेक्ट्रोड क्या है? What is an electrode? What is an electrolyte? Okay, the question is not types of electrode. So if anybody is asking you what's an electrode, you cannot say it is anode, it is cathode. Okay, no. What is an electrode? Electrode is that path over which movement of electrons takes place. Electrode is the path over which movement of electrons takes place. It is the path over which movement of electron takes place. अब या तो वो इलेक्ट्रॉन सेल के अंदर आ रहा है या फिर वो इलेक्ट्रॉन सेल के बाहर जा रहा है, कुछ भी हो, बट इलेक्ट्रॉन्स के मूवमेंट का रास्ता क्या है? इलेक्ट्रोड है. ओके, तो इलेक्ट्रोड्स आर द पाथ ओवर विच मूवमेंट ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉन्स टेक्स प्लेस. What is electrolyte? Very simple answer. Electrolyte is the chemical of the cell. Chemical of the cell is electrolyte. Electrodes, path over which movement of electrons takes place. As I told, this movement can be inside the cell or it can be outside the cell. या तो वो इलेक्ट्रॉन सेल के अंदर आ रहा है या फिर वो इलेक्ट्रॉन सेल के बाहर जा रहा है. That is depending upon the type of cell that we are using. But electrode is the path over which movement of electron will take place. Electrolyte is the chemical of the cell. Okay. Now, what are the two types of electrodes? What are the two types of electrodes? Okay. The types of electrodes are anode and cathode. Now, we need to understand this in detail because there are many mistakes which students make with respect to this thing, anode and cathode. Okay, basics hai, okay, but very essential, very helpful from both your theory and your entrance point of view. Okay, because if you have to understand the question correctly and relate it to the options that are given in the multiple choice questions, these things have to be very correct, very clear. Okay, you can't mess up with these things. So एनोड क्या है, कैथोड क्या है, टाइप्स ऑफ इलेक्ट्रोड है. अब मेजॉरिटी क्राउड के दिमाग में ये चीज बैठी हुई है दैट एनोड मतलब पॉजिटिव चार्ज, कैथोड मतलब नेगेटिव चार्ज, विच इज रॉन्ग. अगेन आई वुड टेलिंग यू इट इज रॉन्ग. ओके, इलेक्ट्रोड्स का क्लासिफिकेशन उनके ऊपर प्रेजेंट चार्ज के वजह से नहीं होता. इलेक्ट्रोड का आइडेंटिफिकेशन, क्लासिफिकेशन उनके ऊपर प्रेजेंट उस पर चार्ज से नहीं होता. यू कैनॉट से दैट एनोड इज पॉजिटिव, कैथोड इज नेगेटिव. इट इज रॉन्ग. ओके, anode may be positive or negative, cathode may be positive or negative. Okay, anode may be positive or negative, cathode may be positive or negative. How do you identify what's an anode? How do you identify what's an anode? You identify an anode by the reaction taking place on it. So anode is the surface over which you will notice oxidation. Anode is the surface over which you will notice oxidation. Anode may be positive or negative. Cathode. So cathode is the surface over which we notice reduction. Over which we notice reduction. And cathode may be positive or negative depending upon the type of your cell. Depending upon the type of the cell, the charge on the anode may be positive or negative. The charge on the cathode may be positive or negative. Now, what are the types of cells? What are the types of cells? What type of cells do we have? We have electrolytic cell, and we have something called as a galvanic cell. We have an electrolytic cell and we have something called as a galvanic cell. Now, what is an electrolytic cell? Electrolytic cell is that cell in which electrical energy from external source is responsible for chemical changes inside the cell. Electrical energy from external source is responsible for chemical changes inside the cell. दूसरी बात क्या है इलेक्ट्रोलाइटिक सेल को लेकर? What is the second important thing? That changes over here are not spontaneous. Changes are not spontaneous. तो हम ये कहां नोटिस करते हैं? Where do we notice this? Electrolytic cell. Change is not spontaneous, means it's not going to be very quick, it's not going to be very fast. Electrical energy from external source is changing into chemical energy inside the cell. This is the ones which are used in the labs for experimental purposes. Talking about galvanic cell, what do you mean by galvanic cell? Galvanic cells are the cells in which chemical energy from external source is responsible for electrical changes. Chemical energy is responsible for electrical changes. Here you can say that the changes are spontaneous. ओके अब गैल्वेनिक सेल के अंदर क्या क्या आएगा? गैल्वेनिक सेल के अंदर हमारे सारे सेल्स आएंगे जो हम इस टॉपिक के अंदर पढ़ते हैं, एनालाइज करते हैं. ओके गैल्वेनिक सेल का सिंपल एग्जांपल आपको लेना है द पेंसिल बैटरी विच यू यूज इन योर रिमोट कंट्रोल्स, इवन दैट इज अ गैल्वेनिक सेल. ओके द जनरेटर विच इज देयर, okay, or the inverters which are there at your home, okay, which power the electrical supply in case of absence of electrical supply from the government, those are all galvanic cells. तो galvanic cell क्या करेगा? chemical energy को electrical energy में change करेगा, and this change is going to be very spontaneous. Now, what are those factors which govern these changes? What are those factors which govern these changes that are taking place? Okay, there are laws related to it. Now, one of these things is called as the Faraday's law of electrolysis. There are two laws. We'll be seeing it one by one. This thing is important with respect to your theory as well as your entrance point of view. You have numericals based on this, okay, and as well as you have MCQs based on this concept. Now, what is the Faraday's first law? Okay, what do we mean by Faraday's first law? Now, what is the statement? Let us understand the statement for Faraday's first law. The law states that the amount of substance getting reduced or oxidized at any electrode is directly proportional to the amount of electricity passed through the cell. Okay, so the law states that the amount of substance getting reduced or oxidized at any electrode is directly proportional to the amount of electricity passed through the cell. Whenever charge will be passed through a cell or current will be conducted through an electrolyte, what are we going to notice? In simple words, मैं अगर आपको पूछूं कि एक सेल फंक्शन कर रहा है तो कैसे आइडेंटिफाई करोगे कि सेल फंक्शन कर रहा है भी या नहीं? ओके, the very primary thing that we notice in any cell is either reduction or oxidation. Okay, and that is why reactions taking place in a cell, what are they called? They are called as redox reaction because it is a combination of both reduction and oxidation. तो आप क्या नोटिस करोगे? You will notice reduction and oxidation. Now, what does this law state? The amount of substance getting reduced or oxidized at an electrode, it is directly proportional to the electricity passed through the cell. Okay, the greater the amount of electricity passed, okay, the greater will be the substance getting reduced or oxidized. If you pass a small amount of current, अच्छा, amount of current को आप time से भी regulate कर सकते हो. Okay, you pass a small amount of current for a long duration of time, ज्यादा reduction होगा, ज्यादा oxidation होगा, ज्यादा charge flow हो. Okay, but आप large amount of current को small time के लिए flow करोगे तो again it is a large amount of current. So time is another factor which will be related to this. We will see the equation how it comes, what are the different factors, and यहाँ पर जो quantities हम use कर रहे हैं ना वो आपको और भी कई सारे aspects में help करेगा of your entrance examination. Okay, we'll be coming across many terms over here which will be present in this equation. जो ये chapter के numericals में तो आपको help करता ही है, but दूसरे भी कई सारे topics हैं. Okay, like you must have done a topic in your 11th standard that is chemical equilibrium. You again have a topic in your 12th standard that is ionic equilibrium. So you will be coming across terms over here which you will be using over there as well. Okay, तो बहुत सारे multi connected concepts हैं यहाँ पर, please pay attention. So the law states that amount of substance getting reduced or oxidized. Now what do we mean by reduced? Reduced का meaning क्या होता है? What do we mean by this term reduced? कैसे identify करेंगे कि reduction हो रहा है? How do you identify that it's getting reduced? You can say reduced when there is gain of electron. You can say reduced when there is gain of hydrogen. You can say reduced when there is loss of oxygen. Okay, and you can say reduced when there is a decrease in oxidation number. When there is a decrease in oxidation number. So reduced when there is gain of electron, reduced when there is gain of hydrogen, reduced when there is loss of oxygen, and reduced when there is decrease in oxidation number. How do you say oxidized, or how do you identify that oxidation is taking place? How do you identify that? You identify oxidation by loss of electron, you identify it by gain of oxygen, okay, by loss of hydrogen, okay, or by increase in oxidation number. These are the factors by which you will identify whether there is oxidized or reduced. ये exactly opposite हैं एक दूसरे के, and this helps us to also identify and balance out the reactions which take place in a cell. Okay, so remember this thing. Reduction is basically gain of electron, okay, or gain of hydrogen or loss of oxygen. A decrease in oxidation number. Oxidation is loss of electron, gain of oxygen, loss of hydrogen, or increase in oxidation number. And if any of these things take place in a cell, it will be directly proportional to the amount of electricity which is passed through the cell. The amount of electricity which is passed through the cell. Now, as per the statement for the first law, the Faraday's first law, the statement, how do you W? We can say that W is proportional, okay? We can say that W is proportional to Q. Now, what is Q and what is W? W is the amount of substance amount of substance which is either getting reduced or oxidized, okay, and Q is the quantity of charge. Q is the quantity of charge. Now we all know that Q is equal to I into T, where I is the current in amperes and T is the time in seconds. Okay, so this will become what? W is equal to ZIT. अब यहाँ पे प्रोपोर्शनलिटी था, यहाँ पे इक्वालिटी आ गया है, तो हमने कांस्टेंट इंट्रोड्यूस किया है, दैट इज Z. Z is nothing but the electrochemical equivalent. It is the electrochemical equivalent. Z is electrochemical equivalent. Now what is Z? We will understand. अब मान लो ये जो इक्वेशन है इसको मैं बोलता हूं इक्वेशन 1, W is equal to ZIT. It is 1. Now if I becomes 1 ampere, I is equal to 1 ampere and time is equal to 1 second, then we can say that W is equal to Z. Yes or no? W is equal to Z. If current is 1 ampere and time is 1 second, तो Z क्या हो जाएगा? Electrochemical equivalent is the weight of substance, please pay attention to this statement, getting reduced or oxidized when current of 1 ampere is passed through the cell in 1 second. When a current of 1 ampere is made to pass through the cell in 1 second, okay, the amount of substance which will get reduced or oxidized, that amount will be called as the electrochemical equivalent. So that makes W and Z equal if the current is 1 ampere and time is 1 second. 1 ampere of current passing in 1 second. I hope this is clear. Now let us go ahead. Z का एक और फॉर्मूला है, Z is E upon 96500. नाउ ये कहां से आया और ये क्यों आया, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है अंडरस्टैंड करना. पे अटेंशन. What is E? E is the equivalent mass. Okay, the equivalent mass. Here E is nothing but the इक्विवेलेंट मास ऑफ द सब्सटेंस. वो सब्सटेंस जो रिड्यूस होने वाला है या वो सब्सटेंस जो ऑक्सीडाइज होने वाला है उसके इक्विवेलेंट मास को हम डिनोट करते हैं ई से. तो अब अपना इक्वेशन क्या हो जाएगा? इक्वेशन हो जाएगा W इज इक्वल टू ई अपॉन 96500 इंटू आई टी. दिस विल बी द एक्सप्रेशन विच वी विल बी यूजिंग इन आवर न्यूमेरिकल्स, ओके, एंड द मल्टीपल चॉइस क्वेश्चंस. W is equal to E upon 96,500 into IT. अब ये 96,500 क्या है? Okay, see please remember that 96500 coulombs is equal to 1 Faraday. Okay, what is 96500 coulomb? 96500 coulomb is equal to the charge present on 1 mole of electron. It is a charge which is present on 1 mole of electron. We all know that 1 mole, okay, 1 mole is equal to 6.022 into 10 raised to 23. Okay, we all know that charge on 1 electron is 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulombs. So charge on 1 mole, when you multiply these two factors, the value that you get is 96,500 coulombs, which is equal to 1 Faraday, which is the amount of charge which is either present or carried, either present or carried by 1 mole of electrons. Okay, now moving ahead, let us try to understand what exactly do we mean by equivalent C. Equivalent mass is nothing but molar mass upon valency. Now, molar mass is again for an atom, for any atom, its atomic weight is its molar mass, and for any molecule है अगर तो its molecular weight is its molar mass. अब इक्विवेलेंट वेट का एक दो एग्जांपल ले लेते हैं. हाउ डू यू आइडेंटिफाई? लेट अस से हमको इक्विवेलेंट वेट कैलकुलेट करना है एल्यूमिनियम का. सो इक्विवेलेंट वेट ऑफ एल्यूमिनियम क्या रहेगा? वी ऑल नो मोलार मास ऑफ एल्यूमिनियम इज 27. Okay, we all know valency of aluminum is 3, so molar mass become 9 grams for aluminum. If we say about equivalent mass of, let us say, any other element, sodium, now we all know that sodium atomic mass is 23, okay, and its valency is 1, so equivalent weight is 23. Let us take another example. Let us take the example of calcium. We all know that the molar mass for calcium is how much is molar mass of calcium? Come on, everyone. It's 20. Molar mass for calcium is 20, or its atomic weight is 20. Is the molar mass 20 or its atomic weight is 20? For calcium, the atomic weight or molar mass, how much is it? If we go to say its molar mass will be 40, so the equivalent weight becomes 20. How does this thing happen? 40 upon 2, calcium is this, and its valency is 2, so equivalent weight kitna aega? 20. Now let us take some examples of molecules. Let us talk about H2SO4. Now we all know that H2SO4, its molecular weight is 98. So when you talk about equivalent weight of H2SO4, it's 98 upon 2, that is 49 grams. If you talk about the equivalent weight for water, it is 18 upon 2, that is 9 grams. अब मॉलिक्यूल में हम कैसे आइडेंटिफाई करेंगे कि कौन से सब्सटेंस से, कौन से फैक्टर से हमको वैलेंसी निकालना है या कौन से फैक्टर से हमको वैलेंसी डिटरमाइन करना है? सेंट्रल एटम. ओके, H2SO4 का अगर बात करोगे तो H2SO4 डिसोसिएट होकर आपको क्या देगा? 2 moles of H plus ions and a sulfate ion with a -2 charge. Okay, so 98 upon 2 becomes 49. That is equivalent weight of H2SO4. For water, central atom of water is oxygen. Valency of oxygen is 2. तो यहाँ पर हमने 18 को 2 से divide किया है, so that becomes 9 grams. That is about the equivalent weight. Now, going to the second law, the Faraday's second law. Now, what is the second law? Second law is talking about two cells connected in series. Now, when you say two different cells connected in series, what are you trying to indicate? You are trying to indicate that the two different cells contain the same amount of electrolyte, okay, the same amount of electrolyte, but the electrolytes are different. And when it is connected in series, what does it mean? The same amount of charge is flowing through both the cells. So connection in series means the same amount of charge is flowing through both the cells. Now, what is the Faraday's second law? When two different cells containing different electrolytes is connected in series and the same amount of electricity is made to pass through them, then the amount of deposited on any electrode is directly proportional to its equivalent mass. Two different cells containing different electrolytes connected in series. So the same amount of electricity is made to pass through them. So which, ऐसा होने वाला है क्या कि दोनों सेल्स में इक्वल अमाउंट ऑफ सब्सटेंस रिड्यूस और इक्वल अमाउंट ऑफ सब्सटेंस ऑक्सीडाइज होगा? आप बोलोगे सेम अमाउंट ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी पास किया. फर्स्ट लॉ में हमने बोला था दैट अमाउंट ऑफ सब्सटेंस गेटिंग रिड्यूस्ड और ऑक्सीडाइज्ड विल डिपेंड अपॉन द अमाउंट ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी पास. तो अगर दोनों से इक्वल अमाउंट ऑफ इलेक्ट्रिसिटी पास हो रहा है तो दोनों सेल्स में इक्वल अमाउंट ऑफ सब्सटेंस डिपॉजिट होना चाहिए. लेकिन वैसा नहीं. वो सब्सटेंस जिसका इक्विवेलेंट वेट ज्यादा है वो ज्यादा डिपॉजिट होगा और वो सब्सटेंस जिसका इक्विवेलेंट वेट कम है वो कम डिपॉजिट होगा. Okay, so the amount of substance that will get deposited, it will depend upon its equivalent mass. What is the formula for equivalent mass? Molar mass upon valency, which we just saw. So यहाँ पर अगर हम बोलते हैं we have a cell which is containing a electrolyte, let us say copper sulfate. We have a cell with copper sulfate, okay, and we have another cell, let us say with lead sulfate, that is PbSO4. Okay, so now what basically will happen? Okay, या अगर lead and copper आपको नहीं लेना है, you can go for any other substance as well. Let us say if we go commonly for aluminium sulfate, if we go for Al2SO4 thrice aluminium sulfate, यहाँ पर डिफरेंस बहुत ज़्यादा है. तो यहाँ पर ये एग्जाम्पल को अंडरस्टैंड करना अपने लिए ईजी हो जाता है. कॉपर सल्फेट, लेड सल्फेट, जिंक सल्फेट, दे आर ऑल ऑफ द सिमिलर कैटेगरी. एल्यूमिनियम सल्फेट का अगर बात करेंगे एंड कॉपर सल्फेट का बात करेंगे तो द डिफरेंस इज लार्ज. अंडरस्टैंडिंग the law with respect to this example becomes easy. Now copper sulfate, what will get deposited over here? We will have two things, Cu2 plus and SO4 minus 2. Or over here what will we have? We will have Al plus 3 और SO4 minus 2. तो एक चीज तो क्लियर हो गई. यहां पर कौन डिपॉजिट हो रहा है? कॉपर. What is getting deposited? Copper is getting deposited. यहाँ पर aluminium will get deposited. So what get deposited over here is aluminium. Now, what about the equivalent weight of copper? Molar mass of copper is 63.5. Valency of copper is 2. तो इसका इक्विवेलेंट वेट कितना आएगा? 31.75. What about aluminium? Equivalent weight of aluminium 27/3, 9. So what will be deposited more out of these two? Copper will be deposited more. इसका एक्सप्रेशन कैसा जाता है? WA/WB is equal to EA/EB, where this WA is the weight of the substance A, that is the chemical which is going to lead to the deposition of a element. WB is the weight of another chemical B. EA is equivalent weight of A and EB is equivalent weight of B. WA is weight of A, WB is weight of B, EA is equivalent weight of A and EB is equivalent weight of B, with respect to which we solve the question. Questions? So I hope this is clear to everyone. Now, going further ahead, what exactly do we understand by the weight of substance getting deposited? इसके shortcuts क्या हैं वो understand करो. Okay, like 1 Faraday of charge or 96,500 coulombs of charge will always deposit equivalent weight of the chemical. It will always deposit equivalent weight of the chemical. I'm sorry. So 1 Faraday or 96,500 coulombs will always deposit the equivalent weight of the chemical. अब अगर क्वेश्चन में आपको पूछा जाता है हाउ मच चार्ज विल बी रिक्वायर्ड, तो वट एवर इज द वैलेंसी of that particular element, that many Faradays will be required to deposit 1 mole atoms. Okay, 1 mole atoms. ये शॉर्टकट है. 1 Faraday और 96,500 coulombs will be required to deposit the equivalent weight of the chemical. मतलब अब अगर हम एल्यूमिनियम की बात करते हैं, 9 grams is its equivalent weight. तो 9 ग्राम्स को डिपॉजिट करने के लिए 1 फैराडे, लाइकवाइज 18 ग्राम को डिपॉजिट करने के लिए 2 फैराडेज, लाइकवाइज 27 ग्राम्स को डिपॉजिट करने के लिए 3 फैराडेज. अच्छा, 3 अगर आप देखोगे 3 ओवर ईयर, तो 3 इज ऑल्सो द वैलेंसी ऑफ एल्यूमिनियम. इट इज ऑल्सो द वैलेंसी ऑफ एल्यूमिनियम. तो जो भी वैलेंसी है उतना फैराडे चार्ज लगेगा 1 मोल ऑफ दैट सब्सटेंस टू गेट डिपॉजिटेड. ओके, अब अगर हम 1 फैराडे पास करते हैं तो अपने को कॉपर कितना मिल जाएगा? कॉपर मिल जाएगा 31.75. अगर 2 फैराडेज पास करेंगे तो कॉपर कितना मिल जाएगा? 63.5. अंडरस्टैंडिंग? सो 2 फैराडेज इज रिक्वायर्ड टू डिपॉजिट 1 मोल ऑफ कॉपर. Whatever is the valency of that particular element, that many Faradays will be required to deposit 1 mole of the substance. It will be required to deposit 1 mole of the substance. So far, I hope the things are clear. Now, understanding ahead what exactly comes across in this topic of electrochemistry. Okay, now try to understand there is also something which is called as the cell potential. Okay, we'll be understanding this thing in detail in a special session and a specific session. For now, understand its importance in relation to the conduction of charge. देखो, cell potential, we are not discussing this in detail over here, but why is cell potential important to understand with respect to the substance getting deposited? Okay, हमने एक टेबल पढ़ा हुआ होगा. When you all must have done this topic electrochemistry, you must have done the standard reduction and oxidation potential का टेबल. तो सेल पोटेंशियल हमको ये आइडेंटिफाई करने में हेल्प करता है अंडर विच कंडीशन विच केमिकल विल बी डिपॉजिटेड फास्टर और विच केमिकल विल बी डिपॉजिटेड ग्रेजुअली एट अ लेटर स्टेज. Which chemical will be deposited faster or which chemical will be deposited later. So cell potential, it gives us a comparative knowledge of conditions under which a particular chemical or element will be deposited faster or sooner or later. Which element will be deposited quickly, which will take time to deposit, which will be fast and soon, which will take a time. ये एक comparative aspect between the electrode that is present, okay, which is the electrode of the cell, and the chemical that is getting deposited on it. Okay, the electrode that is present and the chemical which is deposited on it. This is the concept which we'll be seeing in our next session. I hope so far the things are clear to everyone. Just let us see if anyone has any queries or any doubts. You can put it up on the screen. Anyone is having any doubts or queries in the concepts that we have done so far? So students, that is it for this session. We'll be continuing ahead again with this topic and the other aspects of this topic in the next session. कितने दे